Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today we're going to do a video on a paint comparison. I use several paints in my workshop and I want to talk about the differences in these paints. I get asked this question a lot and I find myself writing responses to people all the time about it. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and share with you the top paints that I use in my shop and what the differences in those paints are and why maybe I use one versus the other or I like one better than the other. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so I've selected my top 4 paints that I use. Keep in mind, I do this for business on a daily basis. I'm out here painting. So over the years and many reviews, I've discovered which paints I like and why, and I'm gonna share that with you and then what their differences are. Now, that is one question I get asked. Why don't I just stick with one paint line? Why would I, go with these different brands? Well, that's a preference for me. After testing out so many different paints, there's different reasons why I like different paints. As I go through them one by one, I'll let you know what those reasons are. But I'm not dedicated to one paint brand particularly because there are really several great paint lines out there. So let's just go ahead and I'll show you what they are. All right, so the first one is this Fusion Mineral Paint, okay? The second one is the General, and these are in no particular order. General Finishes Milk Paint, and I want to stipulate this is not a casein-based milk paint, a chippy milk paint, if you will. So just want to make sure you guys understand that. And then this one is the Wise Owl 1 Hour Enamel. And the last one, and actually this was the first one I ever tried, is the Annie Sloan Chalk Paint. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and start going through these one by one, but the first thing I wanna talk about is VOCs. That's something that all paint lines put on their label. What is a VOC if you're not sure? It's a volatile organic compound. And what does that mean to you and why do you care about VOCs in paints? Well, volatile organic compounds are chemicals that are dispersed into the air. Some have short-term, some have long-term health effects, some have been known to cause cancer. So most every paint you will find has a warning label, even household paint, and they talk about those VOCs. And so some paints have no VOCs, some have low VOCs, and some have high VOCs. So we're going to talk a little bit about that so that you guys can understand when I select a paint and I read that information about it, why that's important. It can affect how you work in a non-ventilated area inside. You don't want to do that if you're working with a high VOC paint, unless you are using a respirator or some sort of filtration mask. Now I know right now masks are extremely hard to come by. I do have a mask that I have had by RZ Mask. I just shared that in my favorite things. I've had that for a little while now, so I feel lucky that I've had that and not had to worry. I also have a full respirator, so that is also an option that you can exercise, and you may be able to get those because that is not what people are wearing right now. I'll show you that in just a minute. It's over in my toolbox. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of go through that. The last thing I'll say about VOCs is I do get asked this question often. Are they safe? Is it safe for, let's say, my baby's crib because my baby might chew on it? Well, here's the answer to that. If you think that when you buy a crib, let's just say from a furniture store, that manufacturer has exercised in their manufacturing plant using a low or no VOC, we have no idea. We don't know. They're not going to disclose that, but I can almost guarantee you that most of them are not. That's probably not something that they're concerned with. They're concerned with pumping out furniture and it's going through an assembly line that's getting sprayed in mass quantities. So I can't answer that for you. What I can tell you is if you're doing a project like that, there's a few things you can definitely do to make it safer for your child because, babies do chew, babies do drool and put things in their mouths. So use a no VOC paint, use a bumper pad, that you can put over it so that would alleviate that worry for you. So there are things you definitely can do when it comes to that. All right, let's go ahead and get to the paints now. All right, so Fusion Mineral Paint. Fusion Mineral Paint is a mineral paint just like it says in the title. So one of the reasons I like this paint is it is a no VOC paint for one, okay? The odor is very minimal, so you could paint indoors, no problem. This paint brushes and sprays very well. Now, I have heard from some other artists, and I belong to a lot of paint forums, that people struggle sometimes with Brush strokes with this paint. The key to this paint is the way you apply it when you're using a brush. First of all, I always say good tools are going to give you the best results, so definitely invest in a good synthetic paintbrush. That will definitely help your alleviation of brush strokes. Then what I say is do not load up crazy with this paint. The thinner coats are better and layering it. So technically what happens is when you get too much paint on your brush and you're kind of slopping it around on whatever it is you're working on, you can tend to have too much product, too much pressure, hence you get brush strokes. So just keep that in mind. I don't particularly have that problem, but I think after so many years of using it, I've just kind of learned. You learn how to use certain paints. So this one, no VOCs, the price point is $19.99 for this size here, which is a good price point. It's very competitive. There's very low odor. Most of the paints I use are very low odor because that kind of bugs me. And even though I work in a well-ventilated shop, I still don't want to work with a really smelly paint. So it has a matte finish. Okay, so that's one of the differences between some of these paints that I'm going to tell you about. This one dries down to a matte finish. If you do not like that finish, you can definitely top coat it and create a different finish, satin, semi-gloss, whatever it is you're looking for. But on its own, it is a matte finish. It does have a top coat built in. It does not require a sealer. That is a great part of this paint. Love that. And I have many pieces that have been finished in my own home with Fusion, and I did not seal them, and they are holding up beautifully. So that is why I like this paint and why I use it. Their color selection is really good. They have some really pretty and unique colors. So if you are not into mixing and matching within the paint line, that is absolutely okay to make your own colors. But if that's not a thing you like to do, then color range is something that you want to look for in a paint line, and Fusion has a really good one. So there's that paint there. All right, and here is the General Finishes milk paint. And I want to mention again, this is not the Cason-based chippy milk paint. This is a water-based acrylic product. So this is probably one of my most favorites and most used. I started using this a couple years ago after I discovered chalk paint and started to try out different products and came across this and I absolutely love it. The application for me works, and so I try to stick with things that work, obviously. It brushes beautifully and it sprays beautifully. Now, I just recently, I'd say about a year ago, started spraying. Up until then, I always brushed all of my pieces. So each one of these I can speak to, they brush and spray beautifully. So the thing with this is it's a self-leveling paint. And what does that mean? It means as it dries, it starts to level and even out to create a really smooth finish, which is a huge plus. The other thing is it's a self-sealing paint, so it does not require a top coat. You can definitely add a top coat if you would like, but it does not require one. So that is a really cool thing. As far as the VOCs goes, it's less than 40 grams per liter, so that's not bad. Again, you know, I would just suggest that you wear a respirator and or a mask during your time of either spraying or brushing it. And it's got very low odor, so it's definitely, I have used this indoors as well as out. All right, so the next one is the Wise Owl 1 Hour Enamel. Now, Wise Owl does make also a chalk synthesis paint, and then this particular product, which is their 1 Hour Enamel. I have tried both, and I prefer to use this one. One of the main reasons is the durability. This stuff is like commercial grade, dries hard as nails, super, super durable. So really, that's kind of a draw to me, somebody who does this for a business every day, buying and selling and doing custom work for clients. The biggest concern that I have is, you know, making sure that my work lasts and it's durable. So that's what drew me to this paint. Now, I will tell you, this is a high VOC paint in comparison to the other ones that I'm talking about. It's 150 grams per liter, so you definitely want to wear some sort of a respirator or mask with this. I only spray this paint. It is not the best for brushing large projects, and they say it right there on the can. You're gonna get your best finish by spraying. You can use a roller. I'm not a fan of rollers, in case you were wondering. I get asked that a lot. I do not use rollers, have tried it, just don't work for me. So It is more, like I said, it's kind of more like what I would consider like a commercial grade. I believe it was originally designed, or the idea came from, you know, being able to have a product that was extremely durable and would dry fast so that you could put the cabinet doors back up or the doors being hung back up right away. And I can attest to the fact that that's the other draw, is the 1 hour. It literally dries in an hour. So, you know, if I do 2 coats of this, 1 hour it's dry, do my second coat, it's dry, I put my hardware back on, it is ready to go. I mean, it is that durable, that fast. That's why it makes it more difficult to brush, because the set time is so quick when you're brushing it that it can, you know, drag or have problems with brushing. I have tried it and I just don't prefer it. I really prefer to use the sprayer when I'm using this. It does have an odor to it. So that's the other thing, is you want to make sure that you are wearing that respirator or mask. I'm kind of sensitive to smells, and so, you know, the first time I smelled this, being that it's an enamel-based paint, it has a little bit different odor, and you can definitely sense that. So this is a great product. It's $38.95 for this size, and, you know, a little goes a long way. The coverage on this guy is definitely the best. So how does it compare to the other two? Well, it does have more of an odor. It does spray better than brush. It does have a kind of a satiny finish. It does not require a top coat. So those are some of the similarities and the differences between the two. I forgot to mention the general finish is what that goes for. I typically buy it in the quart size, and it's about, the colors range, but I would say anywhere from $31.95 to $34.95. So they're all pretty competitive for their you know, for their pricing. The Fusion is a little smaller. You're not getting as much as you are in these quarts here. So, you know. All right, and the last one here we're going to talk about today is the Annie Sloan chalk paint, and yes, it's still one of my favorites. I have been using this since day one. Actually, the first dresser I ever did to sell was done in Annie Sloan, so I do still use it today. It has taken on a little bit different of a purpose for me. I don't typically use it to do full dressers or buffets or nightstands or anything like that in a solid color. What I use this for is blending. I like to do a blended top that kind of looks, it mimics like driftwood or different stains or old wood. I've done it quite a few times, and this paint is wonderful for that. So I still today use plenty of Annie Sloan paint. The thing with Annie Sloan is it is a chalk paint. It dries matte. It does need to be top coated, so it's a little different than these paints that I'm talking about here. Does need to be top coated. You can do that with top coat of your choice. Doesn't have to be wax. Yes, they do sell wax in the Annie line, but you don't have to use that. You can use a water-based polyacrylic to go ahead and seal this, and I do that a lot. So this is a great product. It's got low VOCs. I think it's less than 5 grams per liter, and like I said, sands beautifully, distresses beautifully, blends beautifully. So it's kind of on its own, in my opinion, in comparison to the other paints. If you were to ask me, how is chalk paint like one of these? It's almost not. I mean, it's almost just its own entity. Chalk paint is completely different than a lot of these other paints, furniture paints that are out there on the market. So still equally as good of a paint, and still my first choice when it comes to chalk paint. So that is it. I could go on, because y'all know that I have done so many paint reviews. These are just the top paints that I rotate in my daily operations that really work for me, that I really, really love working with, and I wanted to share that with you. All right, you guys, so that is it. That concludes all of my top paints and the differences between them, why I like them. I hope that was helpful for you guys today. If you have any positive comments or questions, make sure you leave them down below. I did this video just merely to answer some of those questions, because I do get asked a lot about the differences in paint and then what paints that I like and why I like them. So thank you so much for watching today, you guys. Thank you for subscribing. If you're a subscriber, I appreciate it. Keep subscribing so you can get all of my videos. If you're not, make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you can get all of my videos when they come out. And stay safe, take care, and be healthy. I'll see you guys on the next video. Bye-bye.